Everybody knows that the society we live in doesn't really care about purity or prudence or sexual temperance anymore. But this is a shout out to all of the people that are waiting for the godly spouse that God made for them. Because I think that we need to encourage this more. Everybody's as promiscuous as ever, and it's so rare to meet an individual because everybody's already shared their soul so much to everybody else. So when you finally meet somebody that they haven't shared their soul with everybody, and now you're getting a glimpse to who they really are, what they're really about. It's a beautiful thing. But unfortunately, like probably 90+% of the time, people are not going to experience that in this life. And even a lot of the Christians that I've talked to and all that, I mean, of course, in public, they're going to say one thing, but then behind closed doors, they're going to have a completely different perspective on what exactly is happening in their marriage or their relationship. And it's kind of sad, honestly. It's really sad that there's so many people that are not waiting. They jumped the gun a little too soon. And I actually don't think that there's anything wrong with a woman getting married before the age of like 22, 24. In fact, I think it's more preferable for women generally. It's not to say that it cannot happen into their later 20s or early 30s, or even their late 30s or 40s, whatever. But as a woman specifically, like something had to happen in your 20s for you to get to where you are now. And what I've seen is I've actually talked to women in the past in my one-on-ones. This person was, well, it was a female who was 35 and pure, never been with a man. And I said, well, so, and I could feel her energy. I didn't feel like she was lying or manipulating or anything. She felt like she was definitely more free. And there was an innocence about her that was definitely different from even some of the 18-year-old women that I've seen and talked to. I don't like talking to 18-year-old women, but they've talked to me, and then I converse with them usually. Usually the sweet spot for me is about 22 years old to about 25 years old is where I seem to get along most with the women. But I am getting along with women that are older than me, and not too much older. But honestly, I don't really care about age, personally. I don't really care about age. A lot of the red pill stuff will say, oh, once she's 24, she's done. It's like, well, I don't know if that's true, guys. I don't know if that's true, because it's not about the age. Like, sure, there's the possibility of fertility and such, but because that does decline when you're in your 30s, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible, and it doesn't mean that that should be a hindrance to your desire to care for this person. If this is someone that you actually want to care about and that they care about you. I think a lot of that stuff is just BS. I'm not saying that you should go out and, just do whatever you want with whoever you want. But, have some discernment about this. And for women, they generally like older men because they usually have their stuff more together. But a man like myself, I'm 28, I'm about to be 29 in a couple months. A man like myself, who is, I would say, relatively put together, I could definitely be better, absolutely. And I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress just as much as the next person. But I would say for the most part, I have my stuff pretty much together compared to the most 18 to 28-year-olds out there, right? Heck, even into their 30s or 40s, some of them, and beyond. But women that are in their early 30s, I've often been very fond of as well, because they're mature enough to have a conversation and they know what they want. You know how refreshing it is to be around a woman that knows what she wants? Now, sometimes it can be a bit annoying, and, the standards of women can be kind of crazy. But those standards only apply to men that they're not attracted to. And most men are not going to understand this. But it just is the case. And, life in of itself is, excuse my French here, but life is kind of a bitch. But when that bitch is a fool for you, everything comes a lot easier. And how does that happen? Like, how does a woman, let's say, become a fool for you? You just are the best version of yourself that you could possibly be at this moment. That's it. Just be truthful. You don't need to tell the truth about everything. You don't need to be, this overflowing vessel of information, because women want a mystery. Specifically speaking to the men here, but women want a mystery, and if they say they don't, they're usually lying. But women like that sort of thing, and a pure woman, sometimes, you might just be so surprised to meet a feminine woman that you don't know what to do with yourself. And it's like this with women too. When they meet a masculine man, they don't know what to do with themselves. Women have told me, I don't know what to do around you. Like, what do you mean you don't know what to do around me? Like, just be you. I don't need you to be anything apart from who you are. If I need something from you, I'll let you know. And I'll let them know if I do. But other than that, let's just, as the kids say, let's just vibe. I feel like a grandpa saying it like that, but I just don't resonate a lot with what the generation that we have talks about. But it's I don't know what people talk about on dates exactly. I don't really date anymore. I just talk to women. The only time I'm going to take a woman out on a date is if I'm actually going to be involved in a relationship with her. And we both make that clear. But other than that, I'm just going to talk to her. We can go to the park. We can go to a museum or something, hang out and drink some coffee, but make some dinner or something. But I'm not going to spend money on a date. And you know what's crazy? The more I cared to not date women, the more they wanted to date me. Isn't it weird how that works? Isn't it funny how that works? But with men, the women that I've talked to, though, in the past, they just don't know what to do around me. They don't know how to behave around a masculine man that puts God first, that's grounded in Christ, keeps his frame, and doesn't pedestalize anybody. If a woman loves the way that you don't pedestalize people or things or her, you can walk away. She'll love it, but if she's not a mature woman, she's not going to understand this. So you have to have the patience, as a man or a woman watching this, you have to have the patience to trust that God is sending you your spouse. I don't like saying partner. I think that's a psyop to make, men and women think that they're equal. Yeah, y'all know that woman. It's oh, we're equal, but I'm better than you. That kind of woman. Yeah, don't ever. That's not a godly woman. I've heard so many men reach out to me over the years, about the Jezebels and such, and it's treat yourself with some respect. Show God that you want to be treating yourself with respect, and you deserve to be treated with respect. And God will give you a woman like that. God will give you this kind of woman that respects you for who you are. Because some people don't want to think this. Some people are committed to think that this is not the case, that a woman can't love you for who you are, only for what you provide. This is true to a degree, but part of who you are is the provisions. So, as a man, you probably want to protect and provide for somebody. That means that you've surpassed a point in your life where now you want to give something. And then as a woman, if you want to give something, that's a sign of maturity. Any sign of maturity in a man or a woman comes down to whether or not they're able to give something. Are they able to give something to the relationship? Is a woman able to take what you get and multiply it, or is she just taking it? Or is the man just using you and going somewhere else? Is he just using you for gratification? Because there are women that have that kind of fantasy, don't get me wrong. There are women that they have dark fantasies of wanting to be swept away and just used for their body, right? Those are just not mature women, though. It is a fantasy, and it's a strong fantasy. Don't deny it. But mature women are not, they're not going to be like this. I think one of the biggest things that is so wrong with our society is that they don't encourage maturation. They don't encourage how to mature and how to prepare. Like, how many people out there are genuinely ready for a healthy, honest relationship grounded in Christ? I'll wait. Like, in fact, in the comments, put a percentage of what you think the population of our society, just maybe in the world, let's say, too, wherever you are watching this, put a percentage of the amount of people, percentage-wise, that you think that they're actually ready for a godly, true, honest relationship grounded in Christ with a spouse. Because I don't think it's that high, personally. I really don't. If 25% of the population has a healthy attachment style, and 75% of the population has an unhealthy attachment style, that means roughly 25% of the people are only going to be grounded in Christ. Truly, maybe even less than that. Now, the Bible does say that a third of the people have eyes to see and ears to hear, and 2/3 don't. So maybe it's about 33%. Still, not a promising number. I would love to see it go up, but I think the biggest thing that people don't have anymore is patience. People want to be in a rush for things. And I don't think it's wrong if you want to, I don't think it's wrong for men and women to get married at like 19 or 18. Because I've seen people with their high school sweethearts and they're still together. They're living happily. And that's great. That's great for them. But I've seen a lot that also they get married and divorced by the time they're 24. And it's like, you're divorced by 24? Yikes. Like, good grief. That is rough. That is very, very rough. I feel bad for those kinds of people, honestly. And this is why Paul says in the Bible, it's better to abide like him. And over the past year, since last April, I've been abiding like Paul, like choosing as if I'm going to be celibate forever. I'm going to be celibate forever. I'm just going to be who I am. I've already been doing this for years. What's the rest of my life? And you know what's funny is God's timing is always very interesting, because God will always give you something that you're not expecting when you're least expecting it. And that's why I would encourage you to be patient, because I don't think everybody is meant to be celibate for the rest of their lives. I don't think that's really the case. I think God does want us to multiply and replenish the earth. But we have to have patience. We have to have sexual temperance. We have to have the discernment and be grounded in Christ so that we recognize when our urges are happening. Because here's maybe I would even want to make a whole video on this. I just thought about this. This is something I put in the free Telegram group channel yesterday. Was that a person who watches porn is committing fornication or spiritual adultery. Do you know how many people out there are committing spiritual adultery right now? It's absolutely crazy. And it's because for the first time in our lives, a peasant has more access to women that are sexualized than a king, the greatest of kings, did thousands of years ago, throughout his whole lifetime. Something to think about. So we've got to be more mindful and more resilient. And really it comes down to a matter of will. Do you have the will to do this or not? Because if you don't, well, you're not going to make it. You're not going to get the kind of spouse that you could. It's just not true. Like, you're not going to be able to, like, people think that they can continue to have this permit to sin and they'll get everything that they want. It's like, it might work for a while, sure. It might work for a while. But see how good that lasts in the long run. Those are my thoughts for this topic. I hope that this was a useful and insightful video. If you do want to join the Regal Change Academy, where we have an elite group of spiritual people coming together, men and women, there's a free 15-minute call link in the description box below that you can check out. And, we'll be able to call each other up and get an idea of what you're looking for and how the Regal Change Academy works, etc. I'm also doing a Godlike Mastery Initiation free class next Saturday, June 9th. June 7th. June 7th, sorry. It's 9 days out, 8 days out, whatever. I was thinking about those numbers. It's June 7th, Saturday, at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to sign up for that, the link's in the description box below, or it's on my YouTube community, or just on my posts on X. And with all that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. Peace be with you all. Until next time.